Hello, Danny Don't Go In 237 here, and I am here finally with the second installment of a series that I began called "The First Time I Ever Saw." Dot dot dot. Last time I talked about the first time I saw Night of the Living Dead when I was around 10 years old on a little UHF channel. Now I'm going to talk about first time I ever saw another movie when I was around the same age, a little older. When I was 11, I was lucky enough to be at exactly the right age to see this in the theaters. E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. So this is one of my favorite movies. Definitely one of my favorite Spielberg films. I don't think it's his best movie. I think it's up there. I think personally, Steven Spielberg's best movie is Close Encounters. I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that, but I find Close Encounters to be a very dark, challenging movie. It's not an easy movie. There's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of unresolved issues in it, which I think make it a more interesting and, as I said, challenging movie. This, however, I don't think of as the sugar-coated, you know, pile of schmaltz that some people think it is. I think this is an astonishingly powerful movie. I don't think it's... Terry Gilliam is somebody who has criticized Steven Spielberg of wrapping his movies up in a bow. Some of Steven Spielberg's movies certainly are like that. I don't think this is one of them. I think that there is far more going on in this movie than just, oh, a little boy makes friends with a cute little alien and they become best buddies and he helps him get home. Isn't that nice? I think this movie, like Close Encounters, is dark. I think that it... I think in a way, and one of the reasons I think this movie is extremely uplifting, but I think it's also devastatingly sad. It's uplifting in that this boy, this kid, uses his resourcefulness to aid this, this being of higher intelligence to get back to his home planet. This kid doesn't see E.T. as just a lab experiment waiting to happen, or a potential security threat. He just sees him as a friend, and he knows that if he stays on Earth, he's going to die, and he's got to get him back home to his planet. And so he decides that's what I'm going to do because this is my friend, and I don't want him to die. But let me go into the telling you about the first time I saw this, and then I'll get back into dissecting the movie. So, first time I saw this, I was already a Spielberg fan. By the time I was probably 7 or 8, I knew who Steven Spielberg was. And I was very excited when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out. I was like, oh wow, cool. The guy that made Star Wars produced it, and the guy that directed Jaws and Close Encounters is directing it. And so by that time I was like, oh wow, Steven Spielberg, wow. So obviously I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then I saw Poltergeist. I saw Poltergeist before I saw E.T. I think it came out before E.T. I think it came out 1 week before E.T. I didn't know who Tobe Hooper was, but obviously I knew Steven Spielberg. I thought Steven Spielberg had directed Poltergeist, so I was all excited to see it. So I was like, who's Tobe Hooper? I would find out about that shortly thereafter. But so I went to see E.T. knowing nothing about it other than it was about a little boy who became friends with a alien. And I had seen pictures of E.T. I know what he looked like. So my parents did not take me to see it. I wish I had been, looking back, I remember having wished that I had been just with my parents and my brother. I wish that I went to see it with one of my parents' friends, took me, my brother, and a bunch of our friends to see it. He did this a lot. He would take us to the movies, maybe once a month as a group. So he took all the kids to see E.T. And I'm enjoying it. It's fun, penis breath, and he came from your anus and all this stuff. We're all laughing and everything's fun. And the part with the frogs is silly and all this. I was having a good time. But when E.T. starts getting sick, and they're trying to revive him, and they have them in the hospital, the makeshift hospital in the house. I remember feeling my. I had cried in movies before. Usually, though, I cried at the end of the movie because it was over. I mean, I loved movies, so whenever The Wizard of Oz was over, I cried. Whenever Willy Wonka was over, I cried. When we went to the movies, went to see Robin Hood or whatever a Disney movie came out, I cried at the end because it was over. I was sad that it was over. I don't think a movie had really emotionally hit me yet. Maybe here and there. Again, Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy is crying for Annie M when she's in the witch's castle, I remember crying at that. But, But I don't think I had ever had very much emotionally invested in a movie before. And, I'm watching E.T., I'm watching this movie, it's sitting there watching it for the first time on the big screen. I was Elliot. I'm sure a lot of other kids my age, doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, but I guess if you were a boy, it makes it this much closer to home. I was 11 years old. Elliot was 11 years old. I was a Star Wars fanatic. Elliot was a Star Wars fanatic, It's like I was Elliot. I had lived in the same suburban same kind of suburban neighborhood. I rode my bike all over the place. This was a different time. This is when kids went off by themselves and parents had their own stuff to do, and somehow kids managed to not, burst into flames, when they were outside of their parents for 15 minutes. So I think it was probably one of the first times that I saw this character in a movie that I could totally relate to. I'm like, it's as if I'm watching a movie about myself. And that always makes a movie more. It's gonna make it more personal for you when you can relate to a character. When a character is just like you, you're just like, wow, I can really get into this. It was so exciting, and it was so mysterious, and it was so riveting, and it was joyful, you know what I mean? Because again, it's like oh my god, I can imagine myself doing this. Oh, this is so cool. This is like, oh, if I found an alien, this is what I would do too, But when E.T. starts to get sick, and the government agents come in and take over the house, and they build the makeshift operating room, and E.T. is, I remember sitting there, again, surrounded by my friends, boys, girls, people I did not want to cry in front of. And I could feel just this, it felt like a fist in my throat just clenching up, because I was trying so hard to not lose it, because I was this close. I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, I could feel the tears in my eyes. I could feel the lump in my throat. I could, like that. I managed to hold it together. It was hard, but I managed to hold it together. And then, spoiler alert for the 5 people out there who haven't seen this movie yet, when E.T. dies and Elliot talks to him, again, it's like, sure, if you're a cynic, you want to say, oh, this is so corny, this is so cheesy. Elliot is like, you're talking about this kid, it's like, his innocence is gone. Reality has come crashing down, you know what I mean? It's like he loved this person. You know, E.T. was a person. You can call him a person. It's not an it, not a thing. He loved his friend. His friend is dead. And to these scientists, even though, you know, they're sad right now, but what they're more interested in is, he's right, they're going to cut him up and study him. It's like his childhood fantasies have been obliterated and reality has come crashing in. And that to me is what is so devastating about that scene. And then when E.T. turns out he wasn't dead, he was just allowing his body to sort of recharge itself long enough to make it to his spaceship. I had a friend of mine who complained that it was manipulative. You know, oh, first you think he's dead, then he's come back. All movies are manipulative. If movies weren't manipulative, they wouldn't be entertaining. Okay, you know, it's like an incredibly stupid criticism, I think, to make of a movie. All movies are manipulative. All art is manipulative, and if it isn't, you wouldn't find it interesting. You know, you gotta want to look at it for some reason. You gotta want to watch it. You gotta want to see what happens at the end. If it doesn't manipulate you in some way, you're not gonna give a crap, right? The scene where they're on their bikes and they're racing through the neighborhood trying to get E.T. to the park, to the forest to get to where his spaceship's gonna land. Oh my God! It was so exciting. It was as if I was on one of those bikes. I mean, it was just, I remember, oh my God, this is amazing. You know, I'm sitting there, like, it was so suspenseful and it was so exciting and it was so thrilling. And then what's great, I of course forgot to mention, Halloween. I was, you know, big. Halloween was big for me. It still is. I love Halloween. But I mean, at that time, again, this is 1982. You know, this is when kids, you know, didn't matter if it was a Wednesday night, Halloween fell on a Wednesday night. You grabbed your pillowcase, you went out into the neighborhood, you didn't come back for 3 or 4 hours. You know, I didn't come back until 9:30 at night. You know, how'd you do? You know, pick up this giant, huge pillowcase full of candy that I ate all of. So when E.T. and Elliot are riding through the forest and they realize that it's going to take them too long to get to the clearing because it's too rocky, and they fly off the cliff, and E.T. uses his, you know, telekinesis to make them float, to make them fly. Oh my God! I mean, what kid does not fantasize about doing that? You know, it's like you're seeing a dream coming to life in front of you. And when they go across the moon, one of the greatest Halloween-related images ever. I mean, talk about an iconic cinematic image. E.T. and Elliot flying across the moon. It's like that moment is literally like, it represents childhood. It represents the belief that anything is possible when you're a kid. So, after they get through, you know, they talk their friends into helping them take E.T. back to the forest, and then there's that similar shot where they fly across the sun as it's setting. Again, you know what I mean? After all this thrilling, it's like, boom. And I think that's brilliant, too, that after all this excitement, they get there. Elliot goes to run and see if the machine is still working, and all of a sudden, boom, the spaceship's here, and the excitement is gone, and all of a sudden he realizes, oh my God, so I'm never going to see my friend again, ever. And this is where I contest, you know, people like Terry Gilliam's assessment that Steven Spielberg's movies are wrapped up in a bow. This is unbelievably sad. These two friends who love each other and would love to be able to be lifelong friends and spend the rest of their lives as friends, they're never going to see each other again, ever. You know? And again, I felt that that pressure building up, like, oh, come on, hold it together, don't cry in front of your friends, don't cry in front of your friends. I'm sitting there, and when there's that moment when, after Gertie and Michael have said goodbye to E.T., and Elliot, who Henry Thomas's performance is like astonishing. It's amazing how great he is in the movie. He should have been a far bigger star. I mean, he's worked consistently, but he should have been a bigger star than he is. They, when E.T., looks up at him, and he has this look. Here's this like this genius, advanced being, looking up at this little kid, this little human kid, with reverence. The look on E.T.'s face, he's just looking at him like, and just in his eyes, he's looking at Elliot saying, I don't know what would have happened to me if I did not meet you. You saved my life. And again, it's just, oh my God, it's just so, it was so powerful. And when the spaceship takes off, and that ends on that like sort of 2001 sounding drums as Elliot just watches E.T. fly away. There's so much in that shot. There's so much going on in that moment that at the time I didn't really understand. At the time I just thought it was sad that these two friends were never going to see each other again. But looking back on it now, again, it's about the movie. Basically, if you want to look at it thematically, it's about the end of childhood. Elliot's childhood is over. His fantasies about the world, his childhood, his childlike view of the world has been completely wiped away, and he is now, sees the world for what it really is. Although at the same time, the knowledge that there is such a thing as alien life, and that there is such a thing as benevolent alien life out there, opens up all kinds of possibilities. It opens up this all other things. So many other things are now possible, and so it's a very mixed bag of emotions and ideas in just those few moments in the movie. So, the music builds up. Elliot's looking at the sky. There's a rainbow that the spaceship left as, kind of as a way to say goodbye, is the way I interpreted it. I'm sitting there with my friends. I feel like my head is going to explode because I'm trying so hard not to cry. I couldn't. So everybody, my parents' friend who took us to the movie. Oh, how'd you like it? I'm like, I just nodded. Mm-hmm. Yep. My brother's like, oh my God, that was so cool. That was so great. And all the other kids are like, yeah, that was really good. Oh yeah, I had a good time. It was great. And I'm just sitting there like, I just like, and he looked at me. He looked at me and he's like, I think because we were gonna go out for ice cream afterward or something. I know we were gonna go out afterward. I think for ice cream or to a restaurant or something. And he said, you know what? I think we're just gonna go home. And everybody's like, oh, why? And he said, like, I got some stuff to do. And I found out later he told my parents. He said, I just looked at Justin and I realized he needed to go home. So that movie hit him like a ton of bricks. So we go home. I was like, thank God we're not going out to get ice cream. For probably the only time in my, the only time I've ever said that, thank God we're not going to get ice cream. We go home, walk up to the front door. My brother goes in before me. Mom's like, oh, how was the movie? My brother's like, oh, it was awesome. It was great. And he goes, oh, and my mother just looks at me, and I'm like, devastated. I'm not devastated. That's the wrong word. I'm blown away. And she's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Mm-hmm." And she said, "How was the movie?" And I said, "It was good." And I went upstairs. I went in my room. I shut the door. I laid in my bed, and I freaking bawled my eyes out for like 2 hours. I mean, I just laid in my bed and cried, and I couldn't stop. And I was up there for 2 hours. I know for a fact I was up there for 2 hours because I remember being astonished when I looked at the clock when I came back down. I still had a hard time talking about it after that, you know. But then finally, I was able to say it was incredible. It was just one of the most amazing, it was the most amazing movie I've ever seen. I just, you know, at that time I didn't realize a movie could be that powerful. I thought of a movie as being just, you know, entertainment. You know, it's just a fun, good time. I didn't realize a movie could touch you like that. So, it was a very powerful experience for me. It was a very profound experience for me. Probably it's, you know, I didn't realize a movie could be so frightening when I saw Night of the Living Dead for the first time. I didn't know a movie could, like, you know, just chill you to the bone. I thought, oh, it's, you know, oh, Frankenstein, the Wolf Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Those are scary, but they're fun. And Night of the Living Dead, suddenly isn't so much fun. This is pretty horrific. E.T. was the first movie that just was just emotionally shattering for me, you know. And I'm very happy to say, because I remember when it first came out on VHS. It first came out on VHS like in the late '80s, I think. I hadn't seen it. I mean, I saw it. I think I saw it 4 or 5 times. You know, after I went to see it my parents wanted to see it, so we went to see it again. I cried again. This time I was able to cry in the movie because I was just with my parents and my brother. And then I saw it at least 2 more times. So I saw it at least 4 or 5 times in the theater. But then I didn't see it for years. Years and years, I didn't see it. It came out on VHS. I remember actually being worried to watch it. You know, because now I was older. I was a teenager. You know, I was cynical. This cheesy little kids movie that I thought was so great. You know, I bet it sucks now. No, it wasn't any. It hit me exactly the same way. And every time I watch it now, you know, I don't cry anymore. But it still blows me away. It still moves me. And I have a daughter now who is 7 years old. And last year, the Film Forum in New York City showed E.T. as part of their 100th anniversary of Universal Pictures series. And my wife and I took my daughter to see it. And when E.T. is being, you know, when they're working on E.T. in the medical lab, when he's dying, I just looked over at my daughter and she was crying her eyes out. And she was holding on to my wife. But then, you know, she loved it. You know, she had a very similar reaction I had when I first saw it. The difference is, though, that I couldn't wait to see it again. She doesn't want to watch it again because she thought it was too sad, and she doesn't like movies that make her cry. So she loved the movie, but she doesn't want to see it again because she doesn't want to cry again. So I guess that kind of makes sense. But so that's it. So that concludes episode 2 of First Time I Ever Saw. I'm sorry it's been so long, but better late than never, I think. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. I hope everybody I hope maybe this is people who have written this movie off as being fluff or a movie for kids. I hope that this maybe inspires you to give it a second chance. And that's it. I love this movie. Easily in my top 50 or so movies. Probably higher than that. Probably in my top 20. But if I ever met Steven Spielberg, I would give him a hug just to thank him for this. So that's it. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Take care.